Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel Philosmos, where everything philosophical is discussed. So earlier I did a video in which I was making exciting announcements on what you can expect in the channel Philosmos and in the movement as well. And I thought to myself, what the heck, let's do a lecture. So today, this lecture is actually something that I've been contemplating as of late. And I've been looking at the power of perception, and I've been looking at the particular styles in perception. And today I just would like to give you three of them. There are various kinds of perceptions, infinite amounts of perceptions that we can take. But I just would like to focus on the three particular styles of perception, to which when you understand these basic three, you understand just how you are viewing your world and how you can alter that to your benefit, of course. So the three styles of perception. Before we get into that, let's break down first. What is a perception? What is it to perceive? So a perception, of course, requires a perceiver, a person that is a witness to that perception. So a perception is basically how we intake reality from our particular point of view. So anytime there are objects placed in my awareness, anytime there are experiences that I engage in, I am continuously, and not only me, every single being on this planet is continuously formulating perceptions about what is going on around them. Okay, so for instance, let's just say you are driving your car and you stop at the red light and you see a homeless man or homeless woman coming to you and asking you for spare change or spare food, whatever, spare food. But you automatically, by the way they dressed, how they ask you, whatever it is that they're asking you for, you formulate a perception about them without knowing them. So perception, the reason why perception is created within the mind is so that it can instantaneously understand phenomena that are going on around the conscious being, the individual. So if I were to live in a world with no perceptions at all, then reality would be extremely fluid. In fact, a bit too fluid. There needs to be forms of structure in which when I see an object, when I see a particular object, I know very well this is the object's role and this is what I can do with this object. So for instance, let's just say a pen. I've got a perception of this pen, and the perception of this pen enables it to write. So I use it as a tool to write down whatever it is I need to write. But if somebody else that came from a culture where they did not utilize pens, he would or she would use it to pick their nose or scratch their ear or scratch their back. You see, this very thing that had the purpose of being a tool to write down information can be used now to scratch someone's back or to clean someone's ear. You see, there are infinite ways in which I can use this. So my perception gives me a stencil, gives me a template as to how I can utilize this and my relationship to this particular object. So we are constantly forming perceptions, but there are base perceptions to which seem a bit more continuous. So these perceptions are the ones, of course, that you got when you were a child, in your childhood, when your mom told you that going out in the dark is dangerous, that when your dad told you that you need to work at this particular subject, let's just say maths, because only people who study maths get good jobs, you see. So all these aspects, all these occurrences that happen when you were a child formulates all the perceptions that you have about the world right now. So your thoughts are a bundle of your perceptions are a bundle of your thoughts and your feelings. And anytime a perception is formed, it's formed through an intense experience. So intense experience, I mean from both sides of the spectrum, both positive and negative. Something extremely positive could happen to you that can formulate a positive of perception. Perhaps maybe a dog could come to you and wag its tail and start licking your leg, and before that you were afraid of dogs, but then you had that experience, and then your perception of dogs gets altered in that moment because you see, oh wow, hey, it's actually very cute. Let me play with it. Oh, he's actually friendly. He doesn't actually bite, you see? So you formulate these perceptions, and then the next time that you see a dog, you realize that this is an animal that can be friendly towards me. Or on the opposite end, you could see a dog and then it could bite you. That particular dog could bite you. And then every single dog that comes into your experience after that will be approached with fear because you have a particular perception based on an intense experience that you had. So intense doesn't necessarily mean it has to be tragic, you know. Intense just means that it involves your emotions. Okay, so the thought comes in, then the emotion comes right after, and then that locks in a perception. So a perception basically, guys, is the forms and structure to which we view existence. It's a particular angle to which we view the things within existence and existence itself. So now let's get down to the 3 styles of perception that we are generally participating in on a day-to-day basis. So the first one, this is what I call close perception. So if I had to ask you, let me see. Trying to use something as an example. Let's see. Okay, let's use this. It's like a leaf. All right. So, look at this leaf. You can see it, right? Let's bring it closer like this. So, when you look at the leaf like this, okay, very close. Okay. All right. So what was I doing there? I'm trying to get you to see something. So putting the leaf that close to you gives you a lot of detail, right? You see a lot. You see much more than you would see if I showed it to you like this. See? Big difference. Much more detail. Sorry. Less detail. Much more detail. Less detail. Okay. So that is close perception. Close perception is this: viewing things in your reality, in your life, when you are involved, when you are close to the situation, when you are too close or close to the situation. For example, you got laid off your job, you and a couple of your co-workers got laid off the job because the company basically wasn't making enough money. Okay, let's just say that. So within that situation, you are very close. So your perception, your style of perceiving will be a close perception because you are involved, you are personally engaged in that situation. So your experience of it, your interpretation of it, your perception of it will be one that has a lot of personal detail. You'll know exactly why it is that the boss is doing that. You'll know exactly how you feel about that. Like, there'll be a lot of intricate information that you're exposed to because you're very close to it. See, so that's the benefit of having a close perception, because you're in there, you're in the midst of the event or circumstance. But of course, the disadvantage now to the style of perception, to being a close perceiver, is not having an objective point of view. So it's quite subjective. I mean, if I show you this leaf yet again, okay, see that? And then you look at it, okay, and you look there, all right? So when you look at the leaf this way, this is the main thing that is in your awareness. It's the center of your environment. It's the only thing to which you can see because you're standing very close. So you don't see everything else. You don't have the whole picture. into, you don't take the whole picture into consideration. You're only seeing the leaf. But when I bring it back, you see a collection of trees, you see the wall, you see the car, you see. But if I put it close like that, you're not going to see all those things quite clearly. So close perception allows you to see an event quite intimately, but it also fogs the reality of the bigger picture. So going back to that example of being laid off from your job, you and your co-workers, so it might have been that that company tried their best. If you had to step back, objectively look at it, you would see that the company actually tried their best, and that was actually the best thing that could have happened by you guys being laid off, because later on in the future, you got a job offer that actually gave you more, or whatever the case is. Being too close to an event, being too close to a circumstance, restricts you from seeing the bigger picture. If I was asked to draw a car, or to draw an elephant, or to draw a tree, I would need to have some level of space away from that object that I'm drawing. Because if I'm too close, then I'll end up just drawing the elephant's leg, or I'll just draw the side mirror of the car, or I'll just draw the branches of the tree. You see, I would not get a full view of what it is that I'm drawing if I don't take a step back, which gets me to my second type of perception, second style of perception, sorry, which is the bigger picture. Okay, so distance perception, let's call it that. So this is where you step back and you look at the bigger picture. You see the whole event, not from a personal view, but from an objective view. So let's use that same example of people getting laid off their job. Okay, so a representative, or a person that worked in the building that was next to it, that was observing all those things happening within that company, that would be an objective point of view, because they're not involved. Anybody, any party, in fact, that's not involved in being laid off, can view that event, that circumstance, from the distant perception. They see a bit more than what you can see. That is why fundamentally we go to people for advice, whether it's relationship advice, business advice, or social advice, because sometimes, a lot of times in fact, we are too close to a situation, and because we're too close to a situation, we cannot really see, okay, the bigger picture. That's when you step back, and remove yourself from that situation on a personal level. So let's just say you are at the heart of the situation. You are in, let's just say, a car accident, okay? And you are at the heart of the situation. Bam! You hit somebody's car, and now the person gets out, and you guys are in an argument as to who's right and who's wrong. So within that, you're very close, you're very involved, you're personally involved in that situation. But as a bystander who saw that whole accident, they can actually come in and say, okay, this person was right, this person was wrong, and would lean more towards their answer, because they stood as an objective viewer. They stood back. They were not involved. They were not personally involved in that whole occurrence, in that car accident. They were being bystanders. And being a bystander means you're not personally involved, but you're witnessing it. So once you start exuding this type of perception, once you inundate this style of perception, the distant perception, then you're able to see the bigger picture with things in life. You don't always involve yourself personally, but the crucial thing that the bigger picture misses is the involvement. You see, when you're not involved in something, when you're not personally involved in something, then it has a different feel. You see, so if ever you want to alter something about yourself, or alter something about your reality, The closed perception is not the perception to participate in, it's actually the distant perception. Because when you look at your life from an objective point of view, then you're able to be more realistic and you're able to make more realistic changes within your life. Because you're looking at the whole picture, you're looking at the full detail. You're not just looking at one specific narrowed down event. You're looking at the whole bigger picture. Okay, now it brings me to my third style of perception, and this is a perception that we all struggle with and is so ingrained in the human species that evolving out of this may take some time, and it's the polarized perception. In the polarized perception, one cannot see the world without involving opposites. Okay, so a person who's trained to describe their relationship with the world as them being I and everything else being other, outside world, external world. There's me and there's the external world. There's the good. There's good things that could happen. There's like all positive energy, and then there's the bad stuff that can happen. There's the negative. You see, seeing things in black and white, either or, pleasure or pain. You see, and forgetting the middle point where these two contradicting ideas meet. Okay, so in the polarized perception, you can never see contradicting ideas meeting. So if you're set in your ways, let's just say you have a particular belief, let's just say you are a religious person and you believe a particular God created this universe. Then somebody else comes in and says, no, I don't believe that. I believe this God came in and created the universe. So you've got two opposing ideas, okay? One is built on its own principles and values, and another one is built on its own principles and values as well. But there are some similarities to which they don't see because they are based in a polarized perception that says, I will follow this and I will follow this and negate anything else that disproves this or makes it seem as if what I'm believing right now is not real, is not true. See, so the polarized perception gets you stuck in whatever it is that you're believing. Okay, so it's very good for a person who wants to be convicted, to do the right thing and to have an overall positive impact in the environment. So continuously doing good things and trying to fight off the bad. See, it can be a good thing in that regard, but it can be something that is dangerous because once you're set in your ways, even the most pure, good, positive idea that you could hold in your mind would be a tragedy, would be a negative thing, because now you're utilizing that goodness and you are trying to impose it on everybody else, because the polarized perception has to have a distinct, it has to have an opposing force. You cannot be good without knowing the bad. You cannot be bad without knowing the good. So the polarized consciousness functions on having an opposition. So once you step back and realize that there is no opposition in the ultimate scheme, on the surface it seems that way. It seems that there's good, it seems that there's bad, it seems like there's right, and it seems like there's wrong. But on the middle perspective, and the center point, both these ideas, both good, bad, right, and wrong, meet. There's a point in which they meet, and that is a place of power once you access that, because once you access that, then you go beyond the opposites that the world shows and you dive deeper into the nature of reality and the nature of life, which is quite neutral and the best way to describe it is the number zero. It has no concept, no idea that you can attach to it. Thus, it is neutral. Life is neutral, it is meaningless. We are the ones that are attaching meaning to it by our moralistic understanding of our behavior, our thoughts, and our feelings. So whatever it is that you indicate as good, that will then give all your actions context, because you're trying to get away from that which is bad. See, instead of purely acting beyond what is good, what is conceived as good, and what is conceived as bad. So these are the three styles of perception that once you just pay attention to, once you place more awareness on it, then you can basically locate the mechanics behind your style of perceiving in a particular situation. So if you see that you're too close to a situation, try step back, try see it from a different point of view, and then you get a whole encapsulating view of reality instead of one narrowed down view in which you are restricting and limiting the potential information that you could receive. So thank you very much, guys, for listening to this lecture. Please like, please subscribe, and please share. And to end it off, as I always end it off, for those who seek no more, for in the present we find it all. Thank you very much, guys.